Welcome to Diplomatic Channel. I am Amarachi Ubani. Our hearts go out to the people of Haiti, where more than 900 people have died following the aftermath of Hurricane Matthew. The country is in dire need of aid and medicine. Remember, it was still recovering from that devastating earthquake in 2010, and we saw one problem arise after the other. This time is just as bad. Hurricane Matthew has now made landfall in the United States, and 10 people have died already. We'll be coming back to the situation in Haiti and the devastation a bit later on the program. But back home, we're seeing international efforts towards internally displaced people in Nigeria. The World Health Organization, through the Borno State Ministry of Health, has delivered emergency supplies to Mafa and Dikwa IDP camps, hosting 75,000 people altogether. Both camps were chosen following the outcome of a UN joint assessment mission to both of them, which showed higher malaria and acute respiratory tract infection rates in the camps. They said they met patients with diabetes, hypertension, cancer, and other chronic illnesses, and these people could not access medicine. Also, the German government has pledged 47.6 million euros to Nigeria for the resettlement of IDPs in the country. That commitment, according to the German representative, is part of a bilateral technical cooperation and special project initiative to tackle the root causes of displacement of refugees and to speed up their integration into society. Our focus this week, however, is Nigeria-Britain relations. Britain has announced it will trigger Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty by March next year. That announcement was made by the Prime Minister, Theresa May, promising that Britain would be consistent with the law and that the UK will be forging a unique future relationship with the European Union.
Everything we do as we leave the EU will be consistent with the law and our treaty obligations. And we must give as much certainty as possible to employers and investors. That means there can be no sudden and unilateral withdrawal. We must leave in a way agreed in law by Britain and other member states. And that means invoking Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty.
Whether it's helping to rebuild the Balkans, stand up against a belligerent Russia, helping to tackle the migrant crisis in the Mediterranean, of course we want to play our part. Nor does pulling out of the European Union mean pulling up the drawbridge. That's also not in our national interest. We will always welcome those with skills, the drive, the expertise to make our nation better still. If we're to win in the global marketplace, we must win the global battle for talent.
It seems the EU is looking forward to the negotiations, but is also adamant that there must be a formal notification. As for its relationship with Britain, the European Commission says it will work constructively with Britain on the terms of the exit from the EU.
To Article 50, we will work constructively on the basis of a notification, not of a speech. And until this letter of notification arrives, there will be no negotiation. Once it arrives, we are prepared and ready to engage constructively and in good faith. Many people have a different idea of what the preparatory work may be. So precisely not to go into this interpretative territory, I prefer to stay with the principle that everybody knows: no notification, no negotiation.
If we take our minds back to when the referendum voted yes to Brexit in June, there was a lot of uncertainty about what a Brexit would mean for other countries such as Nigeria. Would British immigration or visa policies change, and will trade continue, or will it be reduced, at least until Britain finds its foot after Brexit? There was a lot of speculation even in Britain as concerns immigration, and for some who did not understand, they took out their frustration on those who have naturalized in the UK. That's all in the past now. We're learning a new vocabulary, however, that has emerged from all of this: soft Brexit and hard Brexit. Again, the British Prime Minister explains.
There's no such thing as a choice between soft Brexit and hard Brexit. The line of argument in which soft Brexit amounts to some form of continued EU membership and hard Brexit is a conscious decision to reject trade with Europe is simply a false dichotomy. And it's one that is too often propagated by people who, I'm afraid to say, have still not accepted the result of the referendum.
The British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Paul Arkwright, was here in Channels Television last week, and he explained nothing will change in Nigeria-UK relations.
I mentioned earlier that the UK is not pulling out of the European Union for some time yet. We're still in the European Union. The existing rules and regulations obviously still apply there. They apply to a large extent to European nationals of European Union countries, and that will be part of the negotiation. When it comes to the arrangements for Nigerians and non-EU citizens, certainly at the moment nothing has changed. So we have a visa regime which you're well aware of. Nigerians need to apply for a visa in the usual way, online and so on. I've always said that it's important that any Nigerian who wants to come to the United Kingdom, and by the way, Nigerians are very welcome in the United Kingdom, needs to make sure they have all the processes right, they apply online, they have all the documentation, etc. That has not changed. And that's an important message, I think, for your viewers, that when it comes to immigration into the UK, we haven't changed any rules. Now, I can't predict at this stage what that's going to look like further down the line. There have been issues, as you know, and it's been in the press here, about some Nigerians, and a very small minority of Nigerians, who have overstayed their visa and stayed longer in the United Kingdom than is allowed. In effect, they have broken our rules. They have recourse to legal remedy, to legal avenues and so on. When that has been exhausted, then, and if their appeals have failed, then of course they will be returned to Nigeria. So that's part of a fair and robust immigration system, which any country, including Nigeria, has, and rules are in place. So my main message is nothing has changed, but stick to the rules.
Is the High Commissioner's words assurance enough, and will nothing really change, or will Nigeria gain more from its relations with Britain following the Brexit? Publisher of Inside Watch Africa, Mr. Oluwaseyi Adeyemo, joins me now. Thank you for joining us on Diplomatic Channel. You've heard the British Prime Minister Theresa May talk about the new timetable for Brexit. Yeah. What do you make of the timeline between when the referendum was conducted and the time that Britain is actually going to trigger Article 50?
As a people, I believe the whole world knows that the British people are very thorough people. They're people who will not take decisions anyhow. I believe that it's important that this is done very, very thoroughly, because at the end of the day, it means a lot, for the destiny of a lot of people, not only the Britons themselves, but those who do business with them and have a lot of relations with them. So it's something that must be done with a lot of commitment.
And you notice the tension that exists between Britain and other members of the European Union, especially France. The President Hollande seems enraged by the fact that Britain will be on its way out, and they're saying, we're not going to negotiate until you initiate Article 50, and we're not going to, play to your own terms. You have to play to our own terms. We have to find a negotiating paper. He's going on and on about a hard Brexit from the EU.
This is not a new stand between France and Britain. Before they even got in, before they were admitted in 73 into EU, France, when they tried in 61 to come into EU, France was the country who said to them, look, are you sure they're ready? Are they really, really willing to, play by the rules of the EU? So, and I think it's something that will ordinarily happen when you're going into a relationship that will affect both parties. It's important that we all lay, as it were, our conditions on the table. And if you know that it's going to be a long-lasting relationship, there's a need for you to be sure that both parties clearly gets what is in it for both parties. And that, for me, is not anything out of place for France to say, look, we're not, why are you guys taking time? Are you, let's know exactly what you want so that we'll know what to demand from you and all of that. For me, negotiation, it's a normal thing. Life is all about negotiations.
The British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Paul Arkwright, said that nothing changes. The visa policy remains the same. Immigration policy remains the same also for Britain. But there were jitters after the referendum. Yeah. Do you think that they will rise up again as we get closer and closer to when Britain begins the process of Brexit?
Obviously there'll be changes. That's the truth, because the changes will affect them as a country, and naturally they will adjust to those changes. Now, the level of the changes is not something anybody can actually determine now, because it would be determinant on what happens to them then. If it affects their economy a lot, they will naturally, reappraise their spending mood. if it affects their relationship with other countries, those are some of the relationships to be defined. So it is a little too early to define exact impact it will have on people, but obviously it would affect, because this is something that will affect them as a people.
You think High Commissioner Arkwright is speaking too early, perhaps, before the actual act of Brexit?
His role here, because as a country, Britain has a relationship with us. His role here is to assure us, to give us the assurance that, look, there's no need to worry and all of that. And even if it's going to affect you, it might not affect you, as much and all of that. Now, it would be out of place for him, for you to ask him a question and for him to keep quiet and not to assure you. Because, look, business, most cases, is about perception. The decisions you take is important. The man is the chief marketing officer for Britain in Nigeria. He must ensure that we, his business partner, are assured and we're ready to do business with him.
I'm wondering if we should also be preparing for the Brexit. I mean, how should we react to it?
Ideally, we should prepare, but it's also very, very dicey, because you really don't know how to prepare for this, other than, for me, the general preparation I would recommend for Nigeria and the rest of Africa is for us to, play up our game, because at the end of the day, it would boil down to negotiations. You're looking at your relationship, which should I take out of this, which should I add, and all that, and that is usually dependent on the value of the other party. And so when you add value on yourself, it gives you a better stead when you're negotiating. And so for me, my recommendation for Africa and Nigeria is, whilst they are doing all these negotiations, let us keep doing things that will make us more beautiful, bright, so that when they are coming on to do negotiations with us, we would have strength to demand the kind of a better relationship, because at the end of the day, this is all about relationship with EU, relationship with us, and usually all of these things are redefined over time. Yeah.
Should we have to renegotiate, perhaps?
When
should we also take advantage of Brexit, and how could we do that?
the truth is we're at a disadvantage, and we are not in the position to demand too much from from Britain, and we need to be very careful what we demand. I know for a fact that the EU as a bloc has been negotiating with West Africa for a while, and up till now, they've not been able to get anything out of West Africa, because Nigeria as a country, because of our strength in West Africa, have sort of stored the negotiation because we have that strength in West Africa. So as a country, we must be careful the kind of things we demand, because if you demand for things that are not there, you're likely to lose out. Because if you look at the relationship between both of us, for now, they are at an advantage, and we need to be careful the way we deal with them.
I'm glad you mentioned the rest of Africa, because that's something also that has occurred to me. How the rest of West Africa, especially where you have more former British colonies, how they're also reacting to Brexit, and do you find that they also have the same jitters that other countries had?
It's about relationship. One major partner of yours is going through a facet, a change, a major change. Whether directly or indirectly, it will affect you. And like you suggested, it is only normal and sensible for you to prepare, must also prepare. And in some way, the relationship between us and Britain is they were our colonial masters. Yes, they say we're now partners, but we all know that we're not exactly partners, as it were.
Who do you think will benefit from the most when Brexit is over? Will it continue to be Britain or the EU?
The relationship are exclusively defined. The relationship with EU is relationship with EU, relationship with the UK, Britain is different. So as it were, as it is today, the relationships are going on concurrently. I mean, we're relating with EU as a bloc, and we're relating with Britain as a bloc. So I don't see any major, as it were, change happening in that regard.
When we come back after the break, time is running out in Haiti as the death toll from Hurricane Matthew rises. Do stay with us.